On a crisp spring morning in the Trentino Reserve in northern Italy, the mist still clung to the towering trees, casting an eerie quiet over the forest. Two brown bears moved slowly beneath the green canopy. An imposing male, dark-furred and strong, led the way. His every step was measured, deliberate, as if he were trying to reassure the female bear trailing behind him. The female was striking, her coat a rich brown, but what truly caught the eye was her unusually large belly. Her gait was labored, her stomach swaying with each careful step, making it difficult for her to move with the grace she once had. The forest around them seemed unusually still that morning, as if the very earth was holding its breath, waiting for something extraordinary to happen. The female bear's condition had been a cause for concern, ever since it became clear that her belly was growing faster and larger than any bear in the reserve had ever seen before. Her pregnancy was far beyond the normal term for bears, and her abdomen was beginning to bulge in a way that made even the seasoned staff members uneasy. Among them was Samuel, a man deeply in love with the wild. His task was to monitor this pair of bears closely, ensuring they were both healthy and safe. Every day, Samuel would trek into the forest, bringing fish to nourish the pregnant female. The male bear would always raise his head at the sound of Samuel's footsteps, sniffing the air cautiously. The female, on the other hand, would retreat a little, her instincts telling her to keep her distance. But there was no sign of aggression from either of them, just the silent understanding that Samuel meant no harm. The growing belly of the female bear, however, remained a source of constant worry for Samuel. No matter how many times he observed her, it became increasingly clear that this pregnancy was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Other bears in the reserve looked small in comparison, their pregnancies typical, but the female's size was a constant reminder that something was off. Samuel had noticed that the veterinary staff had become more involved, suggesting that this might be an exceptional and potentially dangerous case. As the days passed, the female bear's labored breathing became more frequent, her body trembling with discomfort at times. Samuel, ever vigilant, would stand at a distance, monitoring her condition, taking notes, and ensuring she had everything she needed. He'd often noticed that the male bear, though wary of him at first, had grown accustomed to his presence. The large bear now seemed almost protective of Samuel, standing guard while the female ate the fresh salmon Samuel brought. Every time she fed, the male would wait patiently, always watching over her until she had finished, before approaching to finish off the leftovers. Samuel couldn't help but smile at the gesture, an unspoken bond between the two bears, an understanding that transcended the divide between human and animal. Despite their growing trust, Samuel couldn't shake the fear gnawing at him. The female bear's belly continued to expand at an alarming rate, and the risks were mounting. On one occasion, the female had collapsed on the ground, her breathing erratic and shallow. Samuel rushed to her side, unsure if she was in labor or if something was terribly wrong. But just as quickly as the pain had started, it faded, and the bear fell into a fitful sleep, her body shuddering with exhaustion. Samuel stayed by her side, watching carefully, his heart pounding in his chest. The male bear remained close, his protective instincts fierce. As Samuel examined the female, the male would circle them, growling low in his throat, making sure Samuel didn't get too close. Samuel reassured him with a calm voice, maintaining his distance but never leaving the bears alone. It was clear that both bears had come to accept him as part of their world. Yet Samuel still couldn't escape the anxiety that hung over him. He continued his observations, recording the temperature, the movements of the unborn cubs, and the female's vital signs. Each day, the unease grew. The staff around him would occasionally comment on the female bear's ever-growing belly, giving her the nickname the Pink Shadow, because of the large, round, and distinctly pink area of skin on her stomach, visible as her fur thinned. As the days turned to weeks, it became clear that something extraordinary was unfolding in the heart of the Trentino Reserve. But none of them, not even Samuel, could have predicted what was about to happen. The morning sky was heavy with clouds, and the forest seemed to hold its breath as Samuel made his way through the underbrush toward the usual spot where the bears roamed. The air felt thick with anticipation, and his heart raced in his chest. For weeks now, the female bear had been showing signs of impending labor, but Samuel had hoped, perhaps foolishly, that it might be a false alarm. Today, though, there was no mistaking it. The male bear's low, guttural growls echoed through the trees as he paced nervously around his mate, his eyes filled with concern. Samuel hurried forward, his mind racing with the instructions the vet had given him in case of an emergency. He reached the clearing where the female bear lay, her body trembling with pain. She was on her side, her breathing quick and shallow, eyes closed in concentration. Her once round belly was now tight and taut, rippling with the pressure of labor. Samuel didn't hesitate. He grabbed the medical kit, his hands shaking slightly, and quickly communicated with the other staff through the walkie-talkie. They had to be prepared for anything. This was no ordinary birth. The male bear stood guard nearby, watching Samuel with a mix of wariness and understanding. Despite the fear and tension in the air, there was a strange calmness in his movements. Samuel slowly approached the female, keeping his voice soft and reassuring as he knelt beside her. The male bear growled again, but this time the sound was not one of aggression. It was a deep, throaty rumble, almost a plea for Samuel to help his mate. Samuel gently stroked the female bear's head, speaking to her in a quiet, soothing tone as he began preparing the injection to help with labor. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Samuel's breath caught in his throat as the first signs of progress became clear. The female let out a short, sharp roar, then fell silent, her eyes squeezed shut in agony as her body tensed with another contraction. Samuel's hands moved quickly but carefully, injecting the sedative to ease her pain, his heart pounding in his chest. The male bear's growls became louder, but Samuel didn't falter. Then, a soft, wet sound broke the tension. A tiny, struggling cub emerged from its mother's body, its wet fur glistening in the dim light. The room, though just a clearing in the woods, seemed to explode with energy as everyone who had gathered held their breath. The first cub's tiny, weak cry filled the air, and for a moment, time stood still. Samuel felt a flood of relief wash over him, but there was no time to relax. The female bear's labor was far from over. Another contraction rippled through her body, and Samuel's focus snapped back to the task at hand. The second cub slid out into the world, followed by the third. Each one was smaller than expected, but each cry was a sign of life. The male bear, who had been pacing around, now seemed to hover over his mate with an almost frantic tenderness. He sniffed each newborn cub, nudging them gently with his snout, as if assuring them that they were safe. Then, to everyone's astonishment, the fourth cub arrived. Samuel's mind reeled. Bears typically had 2 cubs, sometimes 3, but 4. This was something none of them had ever witnessed before. And yet, the surprises weren't over. Another contraction hit, stronger this time, and the 5th cub emerged, tiny, wet, but alive. 5 cubs. It was a miracle. The forest around them seemed to come alive, filled with the sounds of triumph and celebration. The male bear's roar echoed through the trees, loud and proud, a victory song that resonated in every corner of the reserve. Samuel's heart raced with joy as he carefully wiped each cub clean, making sure they could breathe and that they were all safe. He injected the mother bear with a recovery aid to prevent any complications, and she let out a deep sigh, her body trembling from exhaustion but filled with a quiet relief. For the next few hours, the staff worked quickly and efficiently, creating a warm, safe space for the new bear family. The 5 cubs, still blind and weak, clung to their mother's body, instinctively seeking her warmth and nourishment. The male bear stood guard, ever watchful, occasionally letting out short growls as if to reassure the cubs that they were protected. Samuel stood back, exhausted but filled with an overwhelming sense of pride. He had witnessed something extraordinary, something no one had ever imagined could happen in the Trentino Reserve. The bears, who had once been so wary of him, now seemed to accept him as a part of their lives, as part of their family. He could see the bond between the male and female bear, their shared care for the cubs. The scene was nothing short of beautiful. As the morning turned to afternoon, the cubs began to nurse, their tiny bodies slowly recovering from the ordeal. Samuel sat by, watching them carefully, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the culmination of months of tension and worry. The birth of 5 cubs, healthy, strong, and full of life, was a rare gift. The news spread quickly throughout the reserve, and visitors gathered from far and wide to witness the miracle. Samuel smiled, knowing that this moment would forever be a legend in the history of the Trentino Reserve. The bond between humanity and nature had never been more clear. As the family of bears disappeared back into the forest, Samuel couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The male bear gave him one last, lingering glance, and for a brief moment, their eyes met, an unspoken connection passing between them. Then, they vanished into the trees, the sound of the forest swallowing them up. It was a moment Samuel would never forget, a moment of pure, wild magic.